Hi guys, and welcome to the tutorial for the Lisa tiered dress. This dress is named after my mom. She loved this dress and I love it too. It's really romantic. It's got 5 tiers, which is a lot of sewing, but we do take it step by step. This pattern's available at the link in my bio. You can purchase and download this pattern from my Etsy store. This pattern comes in formats AO, US letter, and A4. If you've already printed this out, don't mind this, but I definitely suggest doing AO, which is the large scale printing. Because this has so many tiers, it is a very large paper pattern, so that will help save you a little bit of time if you just print it in large scale. This pattern comes in sizes extra small through 3XL. Make sure you refer to this size chart to see what size you want to make. And below that size chart and in all the photos on the listing, you'll see the materials that you need and some fabric suggestions for this dress. Again, we're going to take this step by step. Now this dress does come with a matching corset. That pattern is available and the tutorial is out if you guys want to watch the video. But for now, we're just going to go over how to make this dress. We are going to start where you have already cut all of your pattern pieces, and we're going to start with our bottom number 5 layer right now. So you guys can see laid out right here, I have my underlining, my lining fabric number 5 piece right here. This is my front number 5 piece, and I'm going to take one of my number 5 back pieces for my underlayer and my lining. We're going to take those and we're going to put them right sides facing and pin at the sides. Now you guys are going to see this repeats a lot. We're going to do this over and over and over again for all of our tiers, and we're also going to do this for both sides. So once I have done one side, I'm going to go over to my other side, take my other back piece. Also make sure you're doing the right side. You want to make sure you're not doing your center back, you're doing your side and connecting it to the side of your front piece, pinning those in place. And once we have that, we are going to sew this down. Now when we sew this, you'll see I'm using a serger. If you don't have a serger, that's okay. You can also use a zigzag stitch, but we want to make sure that we close that off so that we're not having any fraying through the bottom of our skirt. So either do a zigzag or you can use a serger. And once you do that, you're going to make sure you do both sides. And we are just going to repeat those exact same steps that we just did, except now we are going to do our flounce fabric, which is our lightweight fabric. We're doing the number 5. This is our very, very bottom piece. So I have my number 5 flounce fabric right here. I have the front, and I'm placing one of my back pieces, aligning the sides and pinning them into place. And then I'm going to do the same thing for the other side. Now you can see I've got both of my back pieces pinned at the sides to my front flounce piece for the number 5 layer. We're going to take this over to our serger just like we did before, and we are going to serge down both of those sides. Once you're done, it should look like this. So you're going to have some extra steps for your flounce layer that aren't included for your lining layer. So what we're going to do is gather the top edge. So we're going to do that by we're going to create a stitch all along the top edge using the longest length on our sewing machine. And once you've had this gathered, it should be the same length as your lining layer. So if you're confused about how much to gather, you can always hold it up to here because they will be the same. Your flounce layer is 1 1/3 times your lining layer. So again, I'm taking this over to my sewing machine. On the longest stitch length, I am just creating kind of a based stitch and sewing all along that top edge. Make sure when you're doing this, before you cut your threads, you leave a really long thread because we're going to pull that thread and this is going to create a gather. Again, this is 1 1/3 times your flounce, so it's not a super big gather. It's pretty light and it will be the same length as your lining layer once you're done with your gathers. Once you're done with your gathering, you are going to take your lining layer right here. You can see it's really long. It doesn't fit all the way in my screen. They will start to get shorter. But then we're going to take our flounce layer that we have just gathered and we're going to place this on top of our lining layer. I'm going to align all of our seams and I'm going to start pinning in place. I like to align the side seams first and then I kind of go in and fill the rest. So I'll do my 2 center back edges and then I'll do the front, the 2 seams just to make sure everything is aligning, and then I'll go and fill in with my pins. And once I have this all pinned in place, then I'll go ahead and just do a base stitch to combine our flounce layer to our lining layer. Once you've completed that, it should look like this right here. Now we are going to skip a step for the bottom. This dress is kind of extra long. I left it extra long on purpose because I want you guys to try the whole thing on, and we're gonna hem the bottom at the very, very end. So that bottom layer, our number 5 layer, I am not hemming just yet. I also suggest you guys not to hem just yet. We'll save that for our very, very last step. Now we're gonna grab our lining fabric, our front and our back number 4, and we are going to repeat the exact same steps. We're gonna take our back pieces, place them right sides facing to our front piece at the sides, pin in place, and then we are going to either serge or zigzag stitch down. Once that's been sewn, your number 4 layer should look like this. Now we're going to take our number 4 lining layer and we are going to combine it with our layer number 5. To combine these, we're gonna place them right sides facing, and we are combining the bottom of layer number 4 to the top edge of layer number 5. So you'll see I flipped these over and we're gonna start pinning into place, and we're combining the lining of layer number 4 to the top edge of your number 5 layer. Make sure when you pin into place, you are aligning those side seams. Again, I like to pin kind of at the center back, the side seam, the center front, and then on the other side, and then I go in and fill in the rest of my pins. And once you have this all pinned into place, we are going to either serge or zigzag stitch these 2 layers together. So again, we're just combining our number 5 layer, which is complete. It has our flounce and our lining, and just our number 4 lining layer. We're gonna continue to repeat this, but make sure, especially if you're using a serger, that the bottom of your flounce isn't getting caught up. You're only sewing that top part of the flounce for right now, so make sure it's not flipped the wrong way. So you'll see me kind of stop every now and then, and I'll just make sure that that flounce layer is going in the right direction and not getting caught up as I'm sewing these 2 together. Once you've done this, it's going to look like this right here. We're kind of starting to see a sort of skirt. We've got our number 4 lining on our number 5 layer, and again, our number 5 layer is not hemmed just yet. We are going to set this aside. You can see my serge stitch right here. All of those seams should be aligned. Set this aside real quick, and we are actually going to do our flounce number 4 layer. Lay out that flounce number 4 layer, and we're gonna repeat the exact same steps that we've been doing. What we're gonna do is take our front flounce number 4 and one of our back pieces, align those at the sides with right sides facing, pin into place, and once we've done one side, then I'm going to go to the other side and pin that into place as well. Once you have both sides pinned, you will take that over to your serger and sew it down or use a zigzag stitch. For the rest of our flounce layers, we are actually going to have 2 steps. So we're not just going to gather the flounce, we're also going to go ahead and hem it. It is easier to do a rolled hem to all of your flounce layers now before they attached than after you attach them. So each flounce layer, we are going to take over to our sewing machine and do a rolled hem. You can do this on a serger or you can just do a regular rolled hem. I like to use a rolled hem foot. This is a lot of hemming because there's a lot of layers. This skirt is really flowy, so this rolled hem foot just helps it go a little bit faster, and I will do that for the entire bottom of this number 4 flounce layer, as you can see that I've done here. And once I finished off my hem, we are just going to gather by doing a long stitch all along the top edge and then pulling on that string, just like we did with our other flounce layer. And once you've got that gathered to the correct length, again, it's going to be the same length as your number 4 lining layer. We are going to do just like we did before and connect our flounce layer number 4 to our lining layer number 4 at the top edge. Make sure when you pin in place, you're lining all those seams, the center and the backs. And then once you have that all pinned, you're just going to base stitch those 2 together. We've done this step before, and for the rest of our skirt, we will only be repeating steps, so we'll be going over it a lot faster. But once you've connected those 2 layers, your flounce number 4 to your lining number 4, it should start to look like this. So you have your number 5 layer and your number 4 layer done, and we're gonna move on to our number 3 layer. We're gonna make our number 3 layer just like we did number 5 and number 4. I'm starting with the lining and I'm connecting both back pieces to my front pieces. Once I have this, I'm going to take my number 5 and number 4 pieces and I'm going to connect them at that top edge by flipping these so that they're right sides facing, and I'm going to connect my number 3 layer, the bottom of it, to the top edge of my number 4 layer. Once that's all connected, remember we are going to serge or zigzag stitch this layer down so we don't have a raw edge for this. But once you've done that, it should look like this, and we are going to do our flounce number 3 layer. To do our flounce, again, we're going to repeat all of the same steps. So I have already connected my 2 back pieces to my front. I'm going to hem the bottom of my flounce and then also do my gather. I didn't film all of these steps because we have done all of these before. We're not doing anything new here, but once we've combined our front to our 2 back pieces, done our hem and our gather, we are going to pin it into place on top of our lining number 3 layer, just like this, and baste stitch down. And that step completes your layer number 3. Again, we're gonna go over the next ones really quickly because we're repeating all of the same things. So I've already done my layer number 2. I have connected the front and back lining pieces, and now I'm connecting the bottom edge of my layer number 2 to the top edge of my layer number 3. I'm going to pin that into place and serge or zigzag stitch that down. Once I've done that, I'm going to get my flounce ready by making sure I add my back to my front, do my ruching, and then also my rolled hem at the bottom. Once I've done that, I'm going to pin the flounce layer to the top edge of my lining layer number 2. Once you base stitch that into place, that completes your layer number 2. And now we are going to move on to our final layer. Again, we're going to do the exact same steps. I have already completed my lining layer. I'm going to add the bottom edge of that to my layer number 2, just like you see here. And then I'm going to get my flounce piece ready, which I have already done. Make sure you're adding in your rolled hem and your ruching. And now I'm just going to pin this into place with my layer number 1. And once I have this all pinned into place, I'm going to sew those down together, and that completes my skirt portion. It's a lot of sewing, it's a lot of steps, but it does just repeat one after another after another. So once you've kind of done those first 3 layers, you should be able to get down the second and first layers pretty quickly, but that completes your entire tiered skirt. Now set your skirt aside. We are going to get started on our top. So I like to do this side by side. So I start at the back end, your center back, with one side, and then I combine at the center. So I'm gonna pick a side to start with, and I'm gonna take one center back piece and one side back piece. I'm gonna place those right sides facing, pin into place, and then sew down. Now we're gonna do the same thing, but with our side front and our side back piece. I'm gonna take those, align them at their seam, and I'm gonna place them right sides facing, pin into place, and then I will take this over to my sewing machine and sew it down. Once that's done, we're gonna complete this side by taking our center front and we're gonna place that up against our side front. Again, we're gonna put that right sides facing, pin into place. Make sure you add enough pins at that bust seam. You've got some curves there, so sometimes you have to be careful sewing over curves and making sure everything matches up. But once you've got that pinned into place, you're gonna take that over to your sewing machine and sew it down. Now you should have one whole side done. We are just going to repeat all of those steps for our other side, and this will complete our top. So once we've done our other side, we're just gonna combine them at that center front, and it should look like this when you're done. Flip your top over, and we are going to press all of those seam allowances going away from the center front and towards the center back. So make sure when you get to the opposite side, it's going the opposite way, because we're going away from the center front and again, towards the center back. Once you've pressed all your seam allowance, we are going to sew them down. So you can see I'm doing that here. I am just sewing down my seam allowance. Again, make sure that's going towards the center back. Now we're just going to repeat all of those steps for our lining, putting all of our panel pieces together, making sure it's pressed, and then sewing down our seam allowance so that we have a complete lining as well as a complete main fabric. Put aside your lining for now. We will come back to it in a little bit, but we're not done with our main fabric piece just yet. Now we're going to grab our boning pieces, and we're going to cut 2 pieces that are 3/4 of an inch from the bottom and 3/4 of an inch from the top, shorter, to our front seams, our 2 front seams. I'm only doing 2 boning pieces. If you feel like you need a little bit more support, of course you can always add more, but I actually didn't have any trouble with just my 2. It stayed up with my straps both on the shoulder and off the shoulder. So once you have cut your 2 boning pieces like you can see I've done here, I like to tape off my edges. If you're using steel cage boning, you can also cap them. They normally come with caps. Or if you're using plastic, you can sometimes burn off the edges. This is just gonna help prevent your boning from coming up out of your top. So when you're sitting or moving, you don't want that boning to kind of peek out. So I am taping off my edges and the bottoms. So once I've done that, I'm just going to insert in my boning pieces into those 2 front channels. After you've entered in those boning channels, we are going to set our top aside and we are going to grab our front flounce and our back flounce pieces. We are going to hem all 3 of those pieces at both sides and the bottom edge. So you are only not sewing the top edge of every single one of these pieces. So I'm doing that with a rolled hem. Again, you can also do that with your serger, but I am hemming the bottom and 2 sides of every single one of these 3 pieces, my front flounce and my back 2 flounces, which you can see that I've done here. Now for the top edge, we're going to do the same thing that we did with all of our other flounce layers, is we are going to gather the top edge. It is the same amount of gathering. It is a 1 1/3 gather. So this is 1 1/3 bigger than what your actual front piece is for your top. And we're going to do that for your back. So make sure you gather your front flounce and your back 2 flounces. And once you've done all 3, we're going to start connecting those to your top. So you can see I've got my top right here. Make sure you align for the front that bottom where it comes down and it's the longest to the center of your top, and we're going to pin the front flounce all the way to the side seam. And then same thing for our 2 back flounces. Start at the center back and it's going to stop right at that side seam. Once we've got this all pinned in place, and the reason I'm sewing all 3 of them together is I'm going to take this over to my sewing machine and I'm going to top stitch these flounce pieces all in one go. So once you've pinned your 2 back pieces and your front flounce pieces, we're going to top stitch that all along the edge of your top. Now we're going to grab your 2 strap pieces. So similar to how we were doing with our flounce pieces, except this time we are going to do all 4 sides. We are going to do a rolled hem on all 4 sides of both of your strap pieces. So make sure you do the 2 short sides and then your long hot dog side. Once every side of your straps, for both of your straps, have been hemmed, we're going to take one long side and we are going to fold it over 1/2 inch. This is going to be the channel for your elastic to go through. So you can see I have this folded over 1/2 inch and I'm going to sew that down into place. Repeat that for both of your straps, and now we are going to grab our elastic pieces. So I'm using a loop turner right here. I'm going to push this through the channel that I've just made, attach my elastic, and then pull it through. Now your elastic is shorter than your strap, your fabric flounce strap, and that's going to create kind of a ruffle, so we don't have to do a gather at this one. But once you pull it all the way through, you'll notice it kind of wants to bunch up. Make sure you try to get that elastic as straight as possible. The elastic's going to want to turn inside your channel, so make sure it's not turning inside there. And once you have that, what we're going to do is we're going to take 1/2 inch of the elastic and stick it out of our fabric and pin that into place. We're going to do that for both ends, like you can see that I've done here. We'll do that for both strap pieces. And then we're going to secure this by sewing it down. So you can see I have 1/2 inch of my elastic sticking out of my fabric, and I'm going to sew that down for both of my strap pieces on both ends. Now I'm going to grab my top. I like to start by taking both of my straps and making sure that the elastic is towards the center front and the flounce is going towards the center back. This just helps you not get them confused and make sure they're on the right side. But once I've done that, I'm going to flip it so it's going down, so technically right side's facing, and I'm going to pin the elastic part to where that notch is on my pattern piece. Now I'm going to do the same thing for the back side. Make sure you stretch this out. Make sure it's not getting twisted. You want to make sure that flounce is going downwards, and I'm going to take that other end of my elastic and pin it to the other notch that's on the back side panel of my top. And once I have that, I'm going to pin it into place, and I'm going to repeat this for both sides. Again, make sure, because your elastic is going to want to bunch up, that your strap isn't getting twisted. It should look like this when you hold it up, but when we sew it, we're going to sew it going down. Once you've pinned both pieces, it should look like this. I can't stress enough, make sure you don't get your straps twisted. And we're going to base stitch both of those down. So it'll look like this once you've base stitched both those down. And we're gonna grab our lining, and we are finally going to attach our lining to our main fabric with right sides facing. We're gonna pin all along the top edge. Again, remember to align all of your seams. So I like to pin by just aligning all the seams, and then I go in and fill in the rest. But once you have everything pinned into place, we are just gonna sew up that top edge. Take this over to your sewing machine and sew it into place. I've gone ahead and sewed that off camera, so this is what it's going to look like. Sorry, my camera is a little shaky there. But now we are just going to cut little tiny slits, especially at the center front where that sweetheart is. And we're gonna cut these right almost until our sewing. Make sure you don't cut your sewing, but right up into the sewing. And then once you do this, we're gonna flip it right sides out. Those slits help everything just sit nice and flat. But once you've done your slits, flip this right sides out. Make sure you didn't sew up any of your flounce, that your sleeves are looking nice. And now we are going to press this. I like to press this on my lining side because you don't want to burn any of those flounce pieces. And now your top should look like this. So we've got a pretty much completed top. We're just going to finish off that bottom with a basting stitch for right now. I'm gonna pin our main fabric and our lining fabric tops together. Make sure you align all of the seams. You wanna make sure your lining seam is the same as your main fabric seam. Once you have this all pinned into place, again, we are just going to do a base stitch all along that bottom edge of our top. Once you finished off that base stitch, it should look like this. Now we are going to grab our skirt piece, and we're gonna connect that to our top. I'm gonna flip this upside down, and I'm gonna grab my skirt piece, and I'm going to place it right sides facing, and I'm gonna pin the top edge of my skirt to the bottom edge of my top. Make sure when you're doing this, you're aligning those side seams. They should match up. And then I'll pin all the way to that center back. Once you have everything pinned, you're going to serge this into place, or you can use a zigzag stitch, but this is one of those stitches where you don't want your raw edges showing. So make sure you use your serger or a zigzag stitch connecting your top and your skirt. Once you've done this, it should look like this. I'm moving this sideways so you guys can kind of see the whole thing. But before we add our zipper, we're gonna do one last step. These two center backs right here, we are going to serge or zigzag stitch the entire way down. So this is also gonna connect our flounce layer to our lining. So we're gonna do this all the way from the top to the bottom, and it's gonna make it much easier to attach our zipper. Once you've done that step, we are going to start with our zipper. You can see I've serged all the way down those two back center sides. So now I'm gonna grab my zipper, unzip it. I'm gonna flip in my ends. I think that hides them a little bit better than just snipping them. So I fold in my ends, and then I'm gonna start pinning my zipper by taking the teeth and flipping them away from the center back. So make sure your teeth are going away from the center back, and then I'm just going to start pinning this into place all the way down to, I leave about 2 inches off the bottom of my zipper. And once I have one side done, I'm going to do the same for the other side. I'm going to take my zipper, flip it so that the teeth are facing away from the center back. I like to fold in that tail, and then I'll just take this and align it with that center back and pin this into place just like we did our other side. And once I've got this all pinned into place, I will take this over to my sewing machine. Make sure you have a zipper foot on, and then I will sew down my zipper into place. Before you move on to the next step, make sure you zip up your zipper. Make sure everything looks all right, nothing's getting caught, your flounce looks okay. And now we are going to close up that back seam. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna flip this inside out, and I've turned my camera so this is now long ways so you guys can kind of see a little bit more. But I'm gonna start pinning that center back seam, and I pin right underneath where my zipper is. So when you start sewing, make sure you start sewing right underneath where that zipper ends. Make sure you're aligning your seams, so those lining seams you can kind of see, and your flounce layers should be stopping at the same point. And I'm gonna pin this all the way down to the bottom of my skirt and then sew this into place. And again, you can see I start sewing right up to where my zipper ends. I pull that tail out of the way and sew down. I find this easiest to do with just a regular zipper foot. That way you can get really, really close to where that zipper ends at the top. And I sew this all the way down to the bottom of the skirt. Once you've done that, you're just going to give that center seam a nice press. Now we're just going to finish this off with a rolled hem. This is where I suggest trying your dress on, but we are going to do a rolled hem both for your lining fabric and your flounce. If you need to cut it because it's a little bit long, go ahead. But we are just going to do the last step and do that rolled hem for your dress. And that is your very last step for the Lisa dress. Please let me know if you guys have any questions. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Check out the pattern. If you guys are interested, you can also check out the pattern and the tutorial for the matching corset for this dress. I hope you love it as much as I do. I think this is such a beautiful and romantic dress. It's really timeless, and I know it is a lot of sewing with all of those tiers, but I think it's worth it. Again, let me know what you guys think and follow along for more sewing tutorials and pattern releases.